Hey, this is Matt Sorum from Velvet Revolver, The Cult, and Guns N' Roses. And you're listening to Your Morning Coffee with host Jay Gilbert and Mike Etchart.
From the Austin Chronicle, a new documentary explores the perils of AI music.
From Billboard, for years, marketers have urged artists to post more on TikTok. Now they're turning to fans.
And from Complete Music Update, Budweiser boasts of $0 spent on music rights in iconic songs campaign and wins Adland's biggest prize.
Oh, boy.
God. Where are we going, Jay, with this stuff? Yikes. Well, this stuff, we've got a lot of stuff to cover. We're glad you're here. Jay and I are going to start episode 256 right about now.
Stand by for transmission.
This is London calling.
Wake up! The revolution is at hand! Your morning coffee is on the air. On the air. On the air. On the air. On the air.
Standing by.
Your morning coffee, the weekly music news for the new music business. It's the highly curated, agitated, advocated, moderated, and liberated digital music information that you need to know. We are your digital music authority. And now from our studios in Hollywood, California, here's your hosts, Jay Gilbert and Mike Etchart.
Boy, oh boy, that music you just heard was Hoverborg, Sticks and Stones. There's this new documentary that, you just mentioned. It explores the perils of AI music. The article was by Richard Whitaker in the Austin Chronicle, and he talks about this Austin filmmaker, Phil Librand, and he's got a little secret to reveal.
Well, I've seen the top of the mountain, and I'm here to tell you, it's closer than you think. Let me show you how simple it was. I took a handful of songs I wrote for my high school garage band, and I ran them through an AI music tool. Out came a full-length rock LP, and it was good. Like when Weezer actually sounded like Weezer could. And I thought, well, why stop there? Why not see what happens if I disguise this thing as a real band? So I did. Hoverborg. I slapped together an Instagram page for the band. I hired actors to play the members for a couple of music videos and went all in on the aesthetic. The album cover, I gave it a cheeky wink to Weezer's Green Album. Hell, I even printed CDs and had vinyl pressed. Then I let it all ride for 2 weeks without revealing the truth. No one knew this music was made by an AI. Not the fans, not the critics. I was catfishing the world. And you know what? It worked.
Black coffee, hold the cream.
Wow. So Destroy All Humans is a documentary short about AI and art and music, the death of shared culture, and what happens when machines create art that feels undeniably human. What started as an experiment using AI tool Udio to generate a rock album, filmmaker Phil Lieberman claims that this is the world's first AI-generated album, by the way, became something bigger when people around the world embraced the music even after learning it wasn't made by human hands. God.
Right. So there's a physical album, vinyl and CD. It's available digitally on Bandcamp and Spotify. And yes, there is a documentary which is streaming on YouTube. And that was after a successful festival run.
But, and it's a big but, there is no hoverboard. It's the first physically released AI-generated album, Lieberman said, and at least the first that will admit it. I'm sure there are others.
Yeah,
Yes.
don't miss that little documentary. It's on YouTube. It's about 26 minutes long. It's called Destroy All Humans. It's a little dark, and I know you had a little bit of a...
It's a little dark.
A little
It's
problem
really dark.
watching it initially because it is a little bit dark, but it's very well done. And it just goes to show you how the music from places like Suno and Udio, they're getting better and better. Depending on what prompts you use and what you do with it. In this case, this producer put in some lyrics that he had written in college and made this album, and it faked out a lot of people in the press, and people were writing to him about it, and he came clean with it. But I really think this is a must-see, this little mini documentary.
Well, and this is not the first time we've been talking about it. This is not the first time that we're going to be hearing stuff. This is just more and more of this is coming along.
That's right.
And we were talking before we hit record about, he started with lyrics in this. Now you can of course do it just from scratch with nothing and create a song.
Right.
But a lot of people are using this as prompts or using this as a tool, and it's just there, and
Right.
it does make things a lot easier. And
you and I know of artists that are uploading a piano track or a guitar track and having it put a string section on or some percussion or other instruments.
Yep.
And breaking it up into stems. And we were talking about that before we hit record. These tools are getting better and better, and there are multiple uses for them. And now we just need to clear that hurdle of the attribution.
Yes, indeed. And you were in Nashville last week. I'm going to take a wild guess and say that you had a good time.
I did have a good time. I was busy. It was a work trip. It was crazy in Nashville this last week. There was one day where it was 100 degrees outside and it was raining. I'd never quite seen that before. But, some of the highlights just really quickly, I went to a number ones party for Brett James. I think he's up to 21 number one hits he's written or co-written.
And I didn't know you have to say what a number one's party is.
Yeah, I'd never been to one, but I'd heard about them. In Nashville, it's sort of a thing. When you have a number one hit, you get everybody together and you have a little event, and the press is there, and some photos are taken, and you get to have drinks with the folks, and it's a little celebration, and that was really cool. I had breakfast with Clyde Ralston from Belmont. He's also the president of MEIEA, and that was awesome. We just had the greatest conversation. I got to see Jamie Markinet from Luminate, the Bubble Up team. By the way, they have a dog-friendly office, which I love, and I got to spend some time with Goose, their sheepadoodle. So that was a highlight of my week. But honestly, the best part for me this last week was I got to attend this event at legendary RCA Studios with The Accidentals, which is a client and my favorite band on the planet. But they were there to back up this artist, Emma Zink. Check this out.
But I'm not the one that you came here for. So I hope it's a cold shoulder feeling when you get to December. Just like you gave me, baby, don't you remember? You didn't want me when I needed you back. Gave you more than a shirt off my back. I found your cigarettes, your lighter in your left pocket. Told me that you quit it, but you never stopped it. Now we're in better than you ever did. So you can't have it. You left the jacket. You put us back in the closet. Right after you wore us.
That's a cool song.
Yeah. That's Emma Zink, Zinck. developing artist. She was just absolutely fantastic. And you can follow The Accidentals and you can follow Emma Zink on your DSP of choice. Really quickly before we get into stuff, Billboard's Behind the Setlist podcast with that I do with Glenn Peoples. We dropped that Lyle Lovett episode. It's now live. And this summer schedule, I know I shared some of this with you. It's not public yet, but the summer schedule is completely booked and we've got some iconic artists. So please subscribe wherever you get your podcast to the Behind the Setlist podcast.
Yeah, and I do know a little bit about what's coming. So everybody should do that. It's very, very worthwhile. Great podcast. There were two interesting articles from Ed Chrisman at Billboard this week about the annual revenue from two music legends that we, of course, just recently lost a week or so ago, Brian Wilson and Sly Stone.
Right. The headline I saw in Billboard, the first one was, how much money does Brian Wilson's music earn every year? And then, of course, the second one, how much money does Sly Stone's music earn every year? Billboard estimates that the Beach Boys recorded masters catalog brought in about $10 million every year over the last 3 years, and that the catalog's publishing, that was about $3.4 million during that period. Not bad.
Not bad. And Billboard estimates that in terms of Sly Stone, that the band's catalog brings in about $1.2 million annually, but considering the catalog also enjoys a lucrative stream of sync uses and even samples, it might even be generating between $1.5 and $2 million annually.
Right. Billboard estimates that the publishing royalties from the masters and other publishing licensing generate about $700,000 a year off of Sly Stone's masters. But when cover versions, samples, sync, when that stuff's added in, the publishing catalog probably generated about $1 million to $1.5 million every year over the last 3 years. Such a sad loss, both of those icons in the last couple of weeks.
Yes, for sure. A great article from Glenn Peoples over at Billboard in the Ledger newsletter. It's when it comes to music exporting countries, i.e. those that collect more royalties from other countries than they pay out, Sweden, I should say, is patient zero for addressing the way streaming platforms and social media have changed how music travels or doesn't travel around the world. Indeed, how Swedes address the new landscape can provide pathways that songwriters and producers in other countries can take as well.
Yeah, I thought this was really interesting. Music has never been more global. Today, a musician can upload a song and reach a listener virtually anywhere in the world, but music is increasingly local as well. Streaming platforms and social media have allowed creators to build audiences for music performed in their local languages, escaping the homogeneity of the United States and UK-dominated English language pop music.
Right. Algorithmically driven streaming platforms emphasize regional preferences, and social platforms such as TikTok provide local artists with an effective tool to reach nearby listeners. As a result of this globalization, more local artists are reaching the charts in their home countries with local language songs.
That's right. The shifts have been remarkable. As Billboard noted in 2023, less than a fifth of the top 10 songs in Poland, France, Netherlands, and Germany were local artists back in 2012. In 2022, local music's share of the top 10 songs had risen 70% in Poland, Italy, and Sweden, 60% in France, 30% in the Netherlands and Spain, and 20% in Germany. It's about people valuing their own cultures, and the charts are basically a mirror of that, and that's from Pedro Kurtz, Deezer's head of music for Latin America. He said that in 2024.
Right. So while globalization has done wonders for local music communities, it creates a problem for global-minded songwriters, according to a new paper. Sweden's music industry as a crossroads, from economist Will Page, the co-author of a 2023 paper that popularized the term glocalization. So you can read the entire article at Billboard Pro, but I think you and I have talked a number of times about how in our, when we were coming up, you were buying albums and you didn't have an opportunity to really explore other cultures and other things. And now with streaming, you can easily. And so we're hearing Spanish language success here in the U.S. and all kinds
K-pop.
of stuff.
Yeah,
K-pop.
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And really, he mentions Will Page, and we've had Will on the show to talk about glocalization, and hopefully we will again soon.
I hope so.
Let's thank our amazing sponsors, starting off with Disc Makers. You know, if you're listening to this podcast, you already know Disc Makers. You know, they make some of the highest quality CDs and DVDs in the U.S. They also specialize in short-run vinyl and minimum orders of just 100 records. And they're also great guys. We use them whenever we need discs for our clients. Well, Disc Makers has partnered with an exciting new startup called Spinny Media, and they do warehousing and order fulfillment of physical media, CDs, vinyl, cassettes, and more. You pay a low monthly subscription, as low as $2. And then they fulfill your orders. You pay no pick fees or commissions. They have their own Shopify, Amazon, and eBay stores, and also fulfill your Bandcamp and website orders. Very cool. A needed service for independent labels and artists looking to sell more physical albums without having to stuff envelopes or run to the post office themselves. Between Disc Makers and Spinny, you now have a great supply chain solution for end-to-end manufacturing and warehousing and order fulfillment of physical media. Check out discmakers.com or spinnymedia.com. That's Spinny, SPINNEY, media.com.
And we are also sponsored by the Mechanical Licensing Collective. The MLC is a nonprofit organization that is making a big difference for songwriters, music publishers, and other rights holders by transforming how they receive mechanical streaming royalties from services like Spotify and Apple Music in the U.S. Every month, the MLC collects the streaming data and royalties from those platforms, matches the money to the creator who has earned it, and then pays them or their publishers and administrator partners the royalties they are due. To date, the MLC has already distributed over $2.5 billion in total royalties and has nearly 50,000 members worldwide. If you're a songwriter, composer, or lyricist with music streaming or a publisher or administrator, you need to become a member of the MLC to ensure you're not leaving any money on the table. Best of all, membership is completely free, and the MLC pays out 100% of the royalties it receives. You can visit themlc.com to learn more.
Yeah, and a special shout out to Billboard Pro. Want to know what everyone in the music business is talking about? Get in the know with Billboard Pro. Billboard is offering Your Morning Coffee readers and listeners a special 50% discount off of the price of your subscription. Click on the link in your morning coffee.
And we are sponsored by Hypebot. Since 2004, Hypebot has chronicled the new music industry and the trends and technologies that are changing how music is discovered, consumed, marketed, and monetized. Edited daily by founder Bruce Houghton with help from Alana Bonilla, Hypebot and sister blog Music Think Tank are published by live music discovery and marketing platform Bands in Town.
Yeah, speaking of Bands in Town, over 90 million live music fans trust Bands in Town to get personalized concert alerts, recommendations, and messages from their favorite artists. It's the #1 artist services platform, connecting over 650,000 artists with their super fans, managers, labels, agencies, and artists. You know, they access their own dashboard to manage and promote their tour dates across all platforms.
Indeed, and every week, yes, every week, I get to hang out with my good friend Jay Gilbert. He is a music industry consultant. He's the curator of the weekly Your Morning Coffee newsletter and a former executive with Universal Music, Sony Music, and Warner Music Groups, and a man who likes to take chaos and organize it.
I do. That's actually very true. And I get to do this podcast every week with my good friend Mike Etchart, longtime host of Sound and Vision Radio, formerly of SST Records, Warner Music, Capital EMI, and Universal Music Group.
Indeed. Well, let's jump into the stories, Jay.
Yeah, we have some really good stories this week. This first one really upset some people, and the coverage we chose, this one is from Complete Music Update, and it was written by Sam Taylor and Chris Cook. And we like this one the best because it's a little snarky and sort of funny and had all the facts straight. So the headline, again, was Budweiser boasts $0 spent on music rights in this iconic songs campaign, and they win Adland's biggest prize. So Budweiser, as these gentlemen put it, the king of carbonated disappointment, is proud that it's found an apparent loophole that means it doesn't need to pay for music rights when harnessing the most iconic songs in the world to shill its sad excuse for a beer. And now it's won an award.
Right. They say that campaign apparently delivered 68 million impressions across TikTok in its first 2 weeks, with the brand boasting that 0 ads were skipped and $0 spent on music rights.
Oh, boy. This campaign, which started in Brazil, was created by this ad agency, Africa DDB. And according to the statement from Zolisa Daishana, president of the Cannes Lions jury that presented the prize, she said, exceptionally creative. It's fresh and it harnessed the power of music, which is one of the biggest passion points of consumers. And then added, from an efficiency point of view, for 1 second of an ad, you don't have to pay rights or publishing. Really?
Yeah, really. Describing the campaign on Instagram, DBB Worldwide says, in a platform where attention is hard to hold, at Africa Official and Budweiser didn't ask for more time. They chose to do more with less. They created a campaign entirely of 1 second ads based on a simple truth. Real fans know their favorite songs instantly. Too short to scroll past, too personal to ignore, because when media is used right, even 1 second can leave a mark.
Yeah, in a sizzle reel for the campaign, the so-called King of Beers poses the question, do you know this song and this one too? While playing 1 second long snatches of The Beatles Come Together, Queen's Another One Bites the Dust, and Dr. Dre's Still Dre.
So the purpose of the campaign, says the sizzle, was to target 0.5% of real fans who were able to recognize the songs in just 1 second. And it was launched right where everything moves really fast, on TikTok.
Right, against a background composite of vertical video with slogans like POV, you're doom scrolling at night, and you're doom scrolling again, splashed across them. The brand says that instead of making another 30-second ad that people will instantly skip, it created a series of 1 second ads.
Right. So Budweiser seems tone deaf to the fact that most people who fall within the 0.5% of fans who care so much about music that they can instantly spot iconic songs from the briefest snatch are probably also people who care about the artists and songwriters they love being properly compensated for their work.
However, the Lads on Tour beer brand says that 1 second ads, that's it, created the minimum fans need to recognize a song, which is also, they claim, the maximum allowed without paying for music rights. And yes, they actually did use a $ in the S for music rights.
Gosh, so well, the irony of a bargain basement beer, which can be picked up for as little as 39 pence a bottle, I guess that's in the UK, owned by a company worth $128 billion, boasting that it has successfully avoided having to pay for music in its advertising, is something that is going down across the music industry like a cup of cold sick.
Right. So Shez Mehra is the partner and chief marketing officer of Audio Branding, a Toronto-based audio-first consultancy that specializes in building affinity and equity through strategic and international use of sound. They called out AB InBev in a LinkedIn post saying, imagine a musician using 1 second of a Budweiser logo. See how fast the AB InBev legal team shows up.
Right. So Mehra goes on to ask, is this the bar now? No one in that room stopped and asked, are we really rewarding here? This wasn't a win for creativity. It was a loss for the culture. What's not clear is whether the 1 second campaign actually avoids having to pay for the music used. And in fact, Budweiser's campaign poses a number of interesting copyright questions about the duration or substance of a piece of music being used in this context.
Right. So Dave Chase, he's a music director and founder of Listener, that's LSTNR, an agency that provides creative music services for luxury and fashion brands. So David Chase notes that the campaign is, quote, creative perhaps, in their assumption that they can use any length of music without paying a license fee, adding that commercial use of music would normally require a fully paid up music license.
Right. So therefore, whether or not Budweiser needed a license to use these 1-second clips hinges on whether a short snippet of music is substantial or original enough to enjoy copyright protection. The answer to that question might be different for the two different copyrights contained in the 1-second clip. The copyright in the composition and the copyright in the recording.
Yeah, and as we wind this down, there was another really great piece from Hannah Collard over at Media, and the headline was Budweiser's Royalty Loophole Ad, How AI and Social Have Changed the Value of Creators. And she writes, the intention to cut costs is not new or unique. Creators who tend to be driven by love of the craft rather than massive financial rewards are rarely on the winning side of a corporate negotiating table.
Right. What is startling to the music industry is the blatant admission that not paying creators was a goal, one that had earned the respect of other advertisers. Some of the ads, which originally targeted Brazil, are not currently available to even view on YouTube due to rights claims.
Yeah, due to rights claims.
Jeez.
Oh my gosh, you guys, you need to pay these creators for their music, even if you're doing 1 second. That just infuriates me. There was some TikTok news this week. The first one was from Kristen Robinson, our friend over at Billboard, and the headline was, for years, marketers urged artists to post more on TikTok. Now they're turning to fans, and we found this really interesting this week. So over the past few years, major artists have transformed small in-person events into billions of TikTok views by making experiences that organically encourage fans in attendance to get out their phones and hit record and post.
Right. So Alex Warren did it with his London Tube Station pop-up in March. Charlie XCX did it with her Bratwall and Boiler Room underplays last summer. Bon Iver did it with a basketball tournament in April. And the All-American Rejects did it with their mega viral house party tour this spring, which has helped to propel their comeback.
Right. Jenny Call, who's the digital marketing person for All American Rejects, said this is part of the tour that no one's talking about. And they should. The UGC, which is user-generated content, the UGC puts them back on the map.
Right. So Jamie Skinner, a freelance digital marketer who's worked for artists like Girl in Red, said this trend has been bubbling up for the best part of a year and a half now. But in the last 8 to 12 months, it's really started to rally quite considerably.
Yeah, experts attribute the trend to post-pandemic itch to get back outside, the shift in social media platforms for, the For You pages, helping average users go viral much more easily, and the lauded marketing campaign for Charlie XCX's Brat.
Right. Well, in July of 2024, Charlie's digital marketer, Terry O'Connor, told Billboard that a big focus of this campaign has been on making and creating real-life, in-person moments around this album. We are in a time when most labels are just focused on pushing their artists to create digital content for TikTok, Reels, Shorts, etc. But O'Connor added, what people are forgetting is that what Gen Z and our society in general actually want is to experience things in real life.
Yeah, Stephen Pardo is a senior director of digital marketing for Secretly Group. He says that once his roster, which includes Mitski, Bon Iver, Phoebe Bridgers, they resumed touring after COVID-19 lockdown lifted, the UGC from random showgoers sometimes fared even better than the UGC posted by paid influencers, right? Which was the hottest digital marketing method at the time. Pardo said, we quickly started to realize that touring was actually a very potent way to market music online. He went on to say that in a world where there's an incessant need for content, this is a way to do it without having to make an artist do anything differently than just being an artist.
Later, Pardo and his team leaned into that discovery more, staging quirkier and more artist-specific activities that might travel to wider audiences on social media. Faye Webster, for example, hosted a yo-yo invitational last year, and fan-made videos from it garnered hundreds of thousands of views on TikTok. That Bon Iver basketball tournament in Los Angeles also reached fans across the world. One unpaid fans video of the tournament, for example, yielded over 830,000 views and nearly 100,000 likes on TikTok alone.
Yeah, this is so smart. Meanwhile, Charlie XCX and Sabrina Carpenter went on tour. Their sets featured segments that were easily capturable and created anticipation for their extremely online crowds. Whether or not it was intentionally optimized for UGC, Charlie XCX's Apple Dance, for example, that pans the arena's cameras to a surprise celebrity in the crowd once a night, has reached millions of viewers. So has Carpenter's outros for her songs Nonsense and the suggestive positions she does during the song Juno, both of which kept fans on their toes, cameras at the ready, night after night.
Right. So Pardo said, I think it works because of the little sense of FOMO, which of course is fear of missing out, you get when you watch these videos. He said, when you watch someone get to have a unique experience in real life, it plays into what most of us are seeking now, which is to not be on our phone and to find other people who are like-minded. When you give people online a window into a real experience, they watch.
Yeah, this trend, toward taking artist marketing back outside is true, even beyond music. In the dating world, Gen Zers are expressing fatigue, with these algorithmic dating apps, instead preferring to meet singles at a more, organic gathering places like clubs. Folks are ditching their at-home Pelotons for in-studio Pilates classes, and community seems to be the latest buzzword on the tip of all these tech founders' tongues.
TikTok shook up the social media landscape around the time of the pandemic, moving it from a model that served content based on who one is following to one that served content based on one's interests. By focusing on interest-based content, TikTok and all of the apps that followed their approach made virality for newcomers much easier, empowering fans, regardless of their follower count, to post and to find connection with like-minded people.
Yes, and experts say that this focus on in real life to UGC moments doesn't take away from the popularity of other digital marketing trends like running fake fan pages for the artist or doing paid creator campaigns. As Skinner says, quote, arguably gathering this UGC is actually essential for running fan pages right now, end quote.
Right, and Stephen Pardo, again from Secretly Group, says it's really refreshing for fans in a time when every conversation turns into how do we monetize superfans. It's about creating connection and excitement and letting that be the main currency.
Yeah, this was super interesting. And just one quick other TikTok headline this week from Mandy DeLugdug over at Music Business Worldwide. The headline was TikTok launches live fan club feature as platform hits 130 million daily live streamers. So TikTok has rolled out this new feature, and it's called Live Fan Club. And as a platform, 130 million creators is pretty impressive. Now they can broadcast live content every day on the platform.
Right. So the live fan club system potentially marks an expansion of TikTok's monetization tools for its growing live streaming network. Through live fan club, viewers who send Heart Me gifts during live streams are automatically added to a creator's fan club.
Yeah, and finally, fans can complete missions to earn points and unlock rewards. And to maintain their membership status, fans have to remain active within a week of the creator's live stream. Available missions including watching live streams, commenting in chat, and sending virtual gifts. Pretty cool.
All right. Well, how about a little Spotify news, Jay? This is from Ashley King over at Digital Music News. Spotify's video ambitions luring YouTube creators with lucrative but non-exclusive deals. Spotify is making a bold play for the attention of YouTube's top video creators, aiming to transform the platform into more than just a music and podcast hub.
Right. So amid the subscription slowdown for Spotify, the company has reportedly offered select YouTube creators lucrative, non-exclusive deals, to bring their shows and their videos to the platform. These offers are designed to attract high-profile talent Not notably, they do not require exclusive rights to the content, allowing creators to continue distributing their content on other platforms, including YouTube.
So the strategy marks a significant shift for Spotify after years of heavy investment in exclusive podcast deals, most notably with Joe Rogan and Alex Cooper. The company has pivoted towards a more flexible approach for video content. According to Bloomberg, Spotify is now focused on building a robust video catalog rather than locking creators into restrictive contracts.
Right. Spotify is offering both financial incentives and marketing support, with some creators receiving direct payments and others benefiting from enhanced visibility for their shows. The size of the deal often depends on the creator's influence and their audience size, but the common thread is that all these video partners are non-exclusive.
So Spotify's courting of YouTube creators is part of a broader effort to compete with established video platforms, including YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. The company is rolling out new features that make it easier for video creators to monetize their content and track performance, including allowing premium subscribers to watch videos ad-free and sharing ad revenue with creators from ad-supported free users.
Yeah, these changes aim to address creator concerns about intrusive ads infiltrating their content, making Spotify an attractive alternative for creators with substantial video audiences. This push into video is also a strategic move on Spotify's part. The aim is to increase user engagement with Spotify and reduce subscription churn.
So by offering more content formats, Spotify hopes to keep its users on its platform longer and attract new audiences. Executives have acknowledged the challenges of competing with YouTube's massive scale and established creator ecosystem.
Yeah, it's a beast. You know, Daniel Ek said that people make it out to be the winner takes all dynamic and that there's only one player that can solve all of it. But what creators want is to be on multiple platforms. And despite the aggressive courting of YouTube's content creators, Spotify's approach is not without challenges. Independent creators must manage distribution across multiple platforms, without dedicated tools for simultaneous uploads, potentially increasing their workload.
Right. Well, additionally, Spotify's video ad infrastructure is still maturing compared to YouTube's, which could limit the effectiveness of monetization for some creators. A leaked Spotify pitch deck shares that 300 million users have watched at least one video podcast, with 70% watching the video in the foreground. Spotify estimates that it has 675 million monthly active users now, with 260 million paid subscribers. YouTube still remains the king of podcasting platforms, despite Spotify's huge push into creating deals with content creators.
Yeah, that's primarily because of the video component, with TV watching time a huge component for YouTube. And just some other quick Spotify headlines this week. There were a few of them. A lot of news on Spotify this week. There was a story from Glenn Peoples, another one from Billboard, and the headline was Spotify shares reach another high, valuing the company at more than $160 billion. Wow. Spotify set a new record. It was $785 per share on Friday, briefly valuing the company at around $161 billion. And it closed at about $773. So that's up like 9.2% for the week. And then another headline, and this was from Mandy DeLugdug over at Music Business Worldwide, that U.S. senators call for FTC probe into Spotify's bundling practices, which you and I have talked about a lot, and we'll be watching that closely.
Indeed, another one from Mandy DeLugdug, also on Music Business Worldwide. Spotify edges closer to long-awaited lossless audio launch. That's a report. And we've talked about this for so long. I wonder if it's really, really coming.
We'll see.
And then another one over at Music Business Worldwide from Daniel Tenser. Indie artists can now upload videos to Spotify through DistroKid's video service. Very interesting.
Yeah, so check out all those stories in the Your Morning Coffee newsletter. There was just so much Spotify news this week to cover. We couldn't get to all of it. And now our final story for this week. This is by Zoe Hill from Miami University Communications and Marketing. And it was for Loveland Magazine. That's Loveland, Ohio. And the headline was, Music Business Students Develop Gen Z Marketing Campaigns for Loveland record label. And I work with a lot of colleges, music business programs, and I found this is really interesting. So what does it take to launch a successful album today? A lot of talent, even more luck, and the right team of in-the-know marketers, well, like the students in Miami's music business courses.
Right. So across 2 classes, Intro to Music Business and Record Labels and Music Publishing Operations, students in Willie Caldwell's lectures learn the ins and outs of the music industry while working directly with label executives.
Yeah, the collaboration began when Caldwell, he's an adjunct instructor in arts management and arts entrepreneurship. He was researching the regional music scene, to learn more about the local music venues and record labels. And then Terry Cole's name stood out in his search.
Right. Cole is the founder of Coal Mine Records, which is housed above the label's shop, Plaid Room Records, in historic downtown Loveland, Ohio. As the story goes, he cooked up the idea for Coal Mine Records in 2007 and drew the logo on the back of a subway napkin right here in Oxford while he was a graduate student at Miami.
Together, Coal Mine executives and Caldwell workshopped a collaboration. Cole visited one of Caldwell's classes to guest lecture on the industry, which Caldwell said was very well received by his students, but they had sights on a bigger partnership.
Right. So Caldwell said they were interested in better understanding Gen Z's new music discovery habits. So what if we target the Miami student population? How do they discover new music? Where's it coming from? What are their listening habits?
Yeah, Caldwell and his class, they generated a survey that was sent out campus-wide before students left for spring break. They received over 300 responses in just 2 weeks' time and ended up with a solid pool of data for some further research.
Right. So with that baseline, the class could use the data to inform their next stage in the Coal Mine Records collaboration. The students were charged with creating an artist release campaign that would engage Gen Z listeners for the launch of artist Kendra Morris's upcoming album.
Interesting. The students had the opportunity to interview Kendra Morris to learn more about her and her artistic style, and then they combined that information with the survey results to build out their projects.
For Ian Dillenschneider, this collaboration was one of his last hurdles to graduate with a degree in music technology, one he's glad he got to be involved with. He said, as a graduating senior hoping to go into the music industry, especially the indie scene, it was immensely helpful to have this opportunity. He said, the chance to talk to the label felt like I was taking my first steps as a professional artist.
This is great. Working with Coal Mine Records executives on this project pushed the course beyond the norm of textbook work. According to a senior music technology major, her name is Isa Riddle, she said that this was truly inspired by the executives when they spoke at her class. And I would just add that, some of these music business programs, and you and I have talked about this a little bit, they're doing some incredible things. There's so many great programs across the country now, and there really wasn't, a few decades ago. And one of my favorites, and I'm honored to sort of help out once in a while, is with Terry Tompkins over at Hofstra University. And he does something sort of similar to this in some ways, in that, and he's been doing this for many years, at the end of the term, he has his students break up into groups, and they pick an artist and they put together a full-on marketing plan. And I mean, it's comprehensive with things like sync and touring and brand partnerships and everything, the narrative of the band, imaging, all of that stuff. And then after they create this thing, near the end of the year, they get on a Zoom call with, people like me to sort of be a judge, but more importantly, they get on with the artist or their manager and they walk through the plan and they get feedback directly from that artist or manager. And it has been incredible. I've been doing that for a number of years with Terry and the Hofstra team, and they continue to do just world-class work. And this is sort of similar to that, where you get the students involved. And, these students know what's going on with their age groups. They know how they consume music. And, it's just an amazing story.
It's awesome. Love it, love it, love it. Well, as we wrap up the show, if you do enjoy the show, please tell one friend. Jay and I would certainly appreciate it. Big thanks to Disc Makers, the MLC, Billboard Pro, Hypod, and Bands in Town. We so appreciate their participation. We really could not do it without him. So on behalf of my good friend Jay Gilbert, the silver-tongued devil himself, I am Mike Etchart. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week on the Your Morning Coffee Podcast.
You've been listening to Your Morning Coffee, the weekly music news program for the new music business. Join Jay Gilbert and Mike Etchart next time for the digital music news you need to know.